Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys Avengers Infinity War 1/6 scale diecast figure unboxing and review. Now today we are taking a look at Iron Strange. You may be sitting there thinking, what the hell is this? Doctor Strange never wore an Iron Man suit in the movie. Well, he very nearly did. This guy is based off concept art. More on that a little bit later. Now, I got mine from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is in the description below. They do have installment plans and a reward system. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button so you're notified as soon as a brand new review goes live on the channel. As for the box art, it's pretty unique. We don't very often get a blend between Doctor Strange and Iron Man, but oh, we do here, and I kinda like it. Front and center, the opened Eye of Agamotto, which is a 3D raised piece. Then in the background, a little bit of red and gold, very Iron Man. Also, all of this is done in a metallic finish. Now, on the side, you can see the foam core with the Sanctum Sanctorum logo, and an Avengers logo on another piece down below. Now, usually we just have the foam hunk, meaning this box is a little bit taller than usual. On the back of the box, we have all the warnings and legal info. If you're wondering, why Justin, why did you just use a snap transition? Are you being lazy? Yeah, I am. I'm sorry, there are multiple layers at play here. They were sliding around on camera. That was just the easiest way of moving this unboxing along. Up top, we do have Iron Strange, and inside, who would have guessed, the figure himself. Now, I'm fairly certain I know what to expect here. I've owned the standard Mark 50 from Infinity War for quite some time. I really like the Mark 50, so I'm not all that mad that this is essentially a repaint. Now, first in-hand impressions are, this guy is quite hefty. Yeah, that's the diecast Mark 50. What we are going to do now, though, is get all of his accessories across the multiple trays, laid out in the light box, and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Starting off with the display base first, this thing is an absolute monster. I don't know where to begin. So let's just start down here. Now, I have a kind of hate-hate relationship with this diamond style base, and if you're sitting there wondering, ooh, it's got the portal, it's got the blasters, does he like it this time? No, I don't. I still really don't like this base. It's got a point on pretty much every corner except the front, so it's impractical. We can't have it against the back of the cabinet or the sides of the cabinet, and you can't really have figures displayed alongside it easily either. The flight pole is all the way at the back, so all of this space is kind of wasted. It's far too big. Up front, Iron Strange. Up top, a printed decal for the floor, and it's a little bit textured. If you're wondering what the heck this is, it's the floor of the Space Donut, because that's where this scene was supposed to take place. I'm pretty sure Tony would have seen Doctor Strange being tortured by Ebony Maw, he would have given him the Mark 50 somehow, and Iron Strange would have been born. That scene, of course, was cut from the movie. Now, for the first time ever, finally, we have a proper Hot Toys Doctor Strange magical portal in 1/6 scale. Or do we? Now, you can see the size of the flight pole and the size of the display base alongside the portal. This thing is tiny. Now, it's sculpted well with the kind of flame effect down below and the little spikies, and I dig the paint. It's translucent plastic with some feathering of orange. But why is it so small? Is this portal meant for Rocket Raccoon? Because Doctor Strange, he would have to crawl out of it for this to be practical. More on this a little bit later. Up top, we do have a dynamic flight pole and a waist clamp, and some blasters. Now, these blasters are on a translucent arm, and it's articulated on multiple points. You can bend it, you can move them up and down, and you can pretty much display them however you choose. What do I mean by that? Well, you can have some on there or some not. You can go for 2, you can go for 4, for, or you can go for none. You can also remove these little thrusters, even though Hot Toys say you can't. Now they do wedge in nice and securely, so fingers crossed they shouldn't go anywhere when they're just on display. I do love the metallic finish, it's suitably shiny and there's some flake to the paint. And it also has a party piece. If you remove this back panel, there's a switch cause oh yes, it lights up as well. There have been multiple third-party versions of this, but now I don't think we need those third-party versions. I'm very tempted to display my Mark 50 with these blasters in the collection. Hot Toys pretty much established from the very beginning that you can't have a Doctor Strange figure without magical effects, and this guy, he's no exception. He comes with the usual array, and we'll take a look at those in just a second, but the larger ones, they're slightly different. The flame effects on the back that you slot his fingers into, they're in a different pattern. They're also in blue. Normally we get orange ones or green ones, but now that I have seen them in blue, these ones, they might just be my new favorite magical effects for Doctor Strange. I do love the feathering of the darker blue and the lighter blue on the surface. It makes it look a little bit more ethereal. And the same goes for these. We only get one of this one that slots onto two fingers and has multiple squares and various patterns intersecting, painted in the same way as the larger two. And we do get two sets of the medium and the small rings. Now these slide over his forearm, but I'm pretty curious to see how that goes, seeing as the Mark 50's forearm is a lot larger than standard Doctor Strange. We've seen small, we've seen medium, we've seen large, but how about extra large? This is a double-decker. It's also done in the same plastic. I know I'm repeating myself, but I don't know how else to describe this thing. It's got this kind of pearlescent finish on the surface, so it reflects light beautifully. Both of the rings are fully detailed. Even these little pillars have a little bit of crystallization, so they don't look overly boring. Now you do have a little slot for his hand to slide into, and yes, we will be trying this out and the other ones a little bit later. Another carryover from the standard Doctor Strange from the Infinity War line is the magical sword. This time, once again, in blue. Now, the hilt kind of looks like the Eye of Agamotto. Is this a projection from the eye with the flames coming out of it? Please, if you know, let me know down below. This time, though, we do have a sword for a Mark 50 suit, but we get a hand to hold it. Why is this important? Well, it's not the first time we've received a sword for the Mark 50. In the accessory pack, we had multiple bladed weapons, including the guitar, but instead of giving us a hand to hold it, Hot Toys said, no, use the articulated hands, it'll be perfectly fine. But it wasn't fine, and he never really held those bladed weapons super well. So if you wanted to, you could give this hand to the Mark 85 or the Mark 50, and then give him a bladed weapon. He'll now be able to hold it properly. That is, of course, if you're not already using that hand with your Iron Strange. Speaking of hands, he comes with the usual suspects: closed fists, repulsor blasting hands, and articulated finger hands. But we also get two new ones for spell casting. The gestures are unique one side to the other, but not the same. You do have to use these hands with the magical effects. They are well painted with some dirt and grime on the surface. It's not battle damage, it's just a little bit more detail to make the suit that bit more real. You also have the translucent repulsor sections, so if you have the LEDs turned on, these will glow. If you'll recall, in Infinity War, when Tony spawned these 4 bad boys, he also spawned 2 more blasters. They were on his forearms. So Hot Toys decided, let's just get it out of the way, we'll include them here too. The sculpt work is super crispy and the paint is gleaming. They also do have contacts inside, so around the front, when we plug this on, I'm pretty sure these will light up, but don't worry, we'll find out a little bit later. We do, however, have just one more accessory to look at. And it's this, a diorama backdrop made of cardboard. Now, I don't know how to put this nicely, but it's just okay. The print looks good, it's the window of the space donut, but it is made of multiple really flimsy pieces of cardboard, and without the display base on it, doesn't really want to sit in position. It's also super tall and very wide, so trying to find a cabinet that can accommodate this, you might struggle. But what we are going to do now is get Iron Strange himself out here. Standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. Yes, it's the Mark 50 with a Doctor Strange head sculpt and a brand new chest plate. Alright, moving on. No, of course not. In all seriousness, it is that, but a little bit more as well. The Doctor Strange head sculpt is painted slightly differently compared to the first time we saw it, plus the chest plate is new, but there's this green film over the arc reactor, so it glows green like the Eye of Agamotto. Even though most people have seen the Mark 50, I'll give you a brief rundown. It's very sleek, it doesn't look seamless, we have a little bit to discuss in that department, but it's painted beautifully. It's metallic, it's glossy, there's some chipping and some wear and tear on the surface. Like I said in the accessories segment, it's not battle damage, it's just surface detail. Up close and personal, kicking things off with the head sculpt first. Now, I know, we've seen this head sculpt before all the way back in the day with Doctor Strange from the first movie. That doesn't mean this head sculpt is old and outdated though. It's actually still really good. From pretty much every angle, I can see the likeness to Benedict. Let me know what you think. I also appreciate the new battle damage, so it looks slightly different compared to the 1.0. And the skin texture this time is even better. As Hot Toys releases more and more figures, their paint process, it gets better and better and better. So even though this is a reused head sculpt this time, I actually prefer this one. His eyes are also printed slightly off to one side, so his expression is a little bit different. He does have the bangs up on top over his forehead, and yeah, they're separate rubbery pieces of plastic. As compared to the Infinity War head sculpt, I don't know about y'all, but I never really loved this one. I like it, but I reckon the original is still the best. Let me know which one you prefer down below. Compared back to the original version of this head sculpt, there is a pretty clear difference here, and I didn't think there was going to be. Not only is there the battle damage and his eyes off to the side, but his greys are a lot more prominent. Plus, with that added skin texture and detail with the new paint app process, it almost looks like 4K over here with the new one versus 1080p with the original. Also, if you were hoping, like me, to use this new head sculpt on your original Doctor Strange and pop this one on the Iron Strange, you can't. The neck connectors, unfortunately, are entirely different. I know what you're thinking, Justin, why is he headless? Well, people ask me for all kinds of weird and wonderful head swaps, and I like to try and oblige where I can. So if you were hoping that you can take off this rubbery neck connector and pop a Mark 50 helmet on, you can, it's compatible. And now we have a fully suited Mark 50 with the Doctor Strange chest plate. Speaking of which, the chest plate is one of the only new things here, and it looks great. The sculpt work for the magical scripture is sharp, and it's fully panel lined as well. I really like this one up the top. It kind of looks like the string for the necklace portion of the Eye of Agamotto. Now the eye is painted in gold, but in the center for the time stone, it's translucent green. So that means when you turn the LEDs on, it glows green like I said earlier. I was worried that this would be too opaque and it wouldn't glow, but luckily it does. Underneath the chest plate, we have a ton of sculpted and painted detail. Plus, if you do want to, you can swap on the standard Mark 50 chest plate. It's all compatible, just like the helmet. Why would you ever want to do that, seeing as though the chest plate is one of the only new things? I don't know, people like to do all kinds of things, and the very least I can do is show you your options. Around the back it's very sleek with a ton of different panel lines, some gunmetal and silver and gold, and we do have some proper opening flaps, although they're kinda tricky to get to. Underneath that, you guessed it, more sculpted and painted Say it with me, detail. We do have a couple of mini arc reactors on the back and on top of the iron booty. I swear my jokes are getting terrible, I can only apologize so much, you already know. Around the front we've got multiple mini arc reactors and they're also lit up with LEDs. There are some on the arms, but I don't know about y'all. Trying to finagle these panels and various bits and pieces to activate those LEDs just for one on each bicep, for me, it's not really worth the hassle. I'll simply tell you, yeah, they light up too. Now, one big complaint with the original Mark 50 were the gaps at the shoulders. This one kinda still has that issue if you get crazy with your posing, but for the most part, you can get them to sit down and look very flush. Moments ago, you will recall I just complained about having to open up the panels to turn on the LEDs, but then I remembered if I want to show you the light up cannons that snap on, I do have to flick that switch, so no effort whatsoever, I managed to turn them on. Of course, in reality, there was a lot of futzing. You can see a turned on LED for the mini arc reactor, and you can simply remove the forearm and swap it out entirely. The cannon simply snaps on, and when you do, the LEDs turn on. We have one up top and one down below. Something tells me with the blasters in the background and both hand cannons on, this guy's gonna look really cool. I did mention earlier that these may be an issue, and that was foreshadowing because it turns out, yeah, it's a thing. These rings were never meant for the thicker forearm of the Mark 50s, so they don't really lock in position. The bottom one is very free floating, and the best way I've found to fix that is to slide the small one over the palm guard. Now, before anyone tries this and says, Justin, I copied your thing and scuffed up all the paint on the palm guard, please, this is a warning, be careful. It's very tight on there, and I wouldn't really recommend having this wedged up on the hand for a long period of time. And if you don't, it looks kind of like this. So it's pretty much a catch-22. You slide it over the palm guard and risk damaging it, or have it looking like this, which is goofy as hell. Coming down to the legs. Now remember earlier when I mentioned that there are some seam lines and gaps, but you can pretty much hide them. Well, unfortunately, these gaps you can't. Now I'm sure we can all agree, even if you don't love the Mark 50, it's very sleek and smooth and organic and very proportionate in 1/6 scale. But then we have this really skinny hip area and it kind of breaks the illusion entirely. Is it a deal breaker? Well, for some, yeah, it is, and I understand. Now, I get why it's here functionally for engineering, so that you can swivel the upper thigh independently of the hip joint, but surely they could have done better. I've seen third-party companies make add-on pieces to try and close that gap, but I was hoping with this new 2.0 Mark 50, Hot Toys would do that for you. The rest of the leg, though, is awesome, completely smooth and almost entirely seamless. Around the back, you can make out the knee joints, but even they're integrated well. We do have some more gunmetal sections and even some teeny tiny opening flaps, so fingers crossed articulation for the feet will be good. On the underside, we do have some sculpted detail, including what would be a jet booster, I think. It's painted, but it doesn't light up. For a quick side-by-side comparison, on the left, Iron Strange, and on the right, Iron Tony. I am so sorry, these two, they're pretty much identical. The suits are the exact same, the only difference here is Iron Strange has a Doctor Strange head sculpt and a new chest plate. Yes, it's that simple. The color scheme is the same, so too is the articulation, the engineering, and even the placement of the wear and tear. Next up, Doctor Strange from Doctor Strange 1. Now I could have gone with the Infinity War version, but these two, they share a head sculpt, so to me, this made a little bit more sense. Iron Strange is significantly taller than Doctor Strange. Should he be? I'm not sure. Some people have said that the nanotech shouldn't add height, but other people have said it should, so weigh in down below. Should Iron Strange be taller or no? Going over articulation, please, by all means, if you own the Mark 50 or you've seen the articulation for the 50 before, skip this segment, it's the exact same. But if you haven't and you don't, then stick with me. Maybe I'll show you something new. Starting off with the head sculpt, it's on a fixed neck with a ball joint at the bottom. Looking forward just a touch, looking back a little, swivel and pivot side to side. Now with any Iron Man suit, to avoid chipping, please pull out the joints first and be very careful. The arms do extend out, going up to there with a moving shoulder pad. They will go forward and back, butterfly joint at the shoulder that hinges up and down. Swivel up there as well. You do have a double bend at the elbow, and check the engineering, his bicep, it's floating, it moves out the way. Plus a ball joint for the wrist peg. Now the torso can be extended at 2 segments, lower and upper. It does crunch forward to there, going back to there, swivel and pivot side to side. Now the legs do go forward, but as always, extend them down. Not super easy to do on ratchets. Plus these hip skirts, they're articulated as well. Going forward to there, going out to there, swivel at the upper thigh, ratcheted double bend at the knee. Down here for the foot, it does extend down just a little, forward and back plus pivot. And lastly, toe articulation. Moving on to the 3 cool and 3 annoying things. The first annoying thing is the cardboard backdrop. Now, I like the print, it gets the job done, but the construction is all kinds of funky. It doesn't hold together well, there are gaps, there are seams, there are crease lines. Honestly, they should have just left this out. I know, harsh, some people I'm sure are going to like the backdrop, but I don't. The second annoying thing is the magical portal. I've been waiting 4 years for a proper 1/6 scale Doctor Strange portal. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to wait a lot longer because this simply ain't it. It's far too tiny. I mean, how is Doctor Strange supposed to use this? Is he supposed to slide through like some kind of MRI? I don't know. This just should have been bigger. If Hot Toys were going to finally give us a Doctor Strange portal, why not make it in the correct scale? The third annoying thing is no Iron Man helmet. Now, I understand, this is Iron Strange. It comes with the Doctor Strange head sculpt, a very good one. But to complete the overall Iron Man look and feel, which is 90% of the figure, I would have liked to have seen a helmet as well. The first cool thing, I'm aware, it's a bit of a cop-out, but it's the new chest plate. Quite literally one of the only new pieces here. The sculpt work is very intricate and super lush. It's all very nicely painted, and smack bang in the middle, the Eye of Agamotto that lights up green. The second cool thing is the choice of Doctor Strange sculpt. They could have very easily gone and used the No Way Home or Infinity War version, but they didn't. They went into the archive and picked the better of the 2 sculpts, at least in my opinion, the 1.0. This time though, there's some battle damage, the skin texture is even more HD than it was back in the day, and his eyes, they're off to the side, so the expression is a little bit different. The third cool thing is this. Fingers crossed I can get that one dead LED on the right side fixed, but for now, you'll have to try and ignore it, like I'm trying to. Everything else, though, is awesome. This has gone from a standard figure to a centerpiece. It's got presence. The blasters look like they're genuinely floating, and they're all on ball joints, so they're adjustable. There are a ton of LEDs, and it's all compatible with the standard Mark 50. So if you wanted to recreate that scene from Infinity War, you absolutely can. Just snap on the forearm blasters, the contacts will pick up the electricity, and they'll light up a treat. Wrapping up on Hot Toys Iron Strange based off his appearance in nothing. But in actuality based off concept art and deleted scenes from Avengers Infinity War. Now, going into this, I knew what to expect, as I'm sure did plenty of you. It's a Mark 50, so all of the good stuff about the Mark 50 is true here as well. The paint applications, the engineering, the articulation, the seamlessness, all of that applies to Iron Strange. But this time, we get a lot of new. A new chest plate, a magical portal, the blasters that float behind him, the arm cannons that are also compatible with the Mark 50, a nice touch Hot Toys. Plus the Doctor Strange head sculpt, which is reused, but it's painted slightly differently with the battle damage and the eyes to one side. So there is a lot to like here, but there's also potentially a lot not to. If you have a Doctor Strange and you have a Mark 50, is this a must get? No, I don't think so. If you do want to pick up the accessories on the aftermarket, potentially a good option, but for me, I love these concept figures. Like I said, there's something different, and in the collection, they're going to stand out. When someone comes over and looks at your Infinity War display and says, "Hang on a minute, Doctor Strange in an Iron Man suit? I've never seen that before, but that's kind of awesome." And there's no denying, yeah, it is. Now, even though it might not be for you, don't forget, we all have different opinions. It might not work for you, but that doesn't mean it's not going to work for everyone. Now, I got mine from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is in the description below. They do have installment plans and a reward system. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video.